Hey everybody, my name is David McKeever with Bob Highfill today. He's a staff writer with the Stockton Record, and I invited him on the show today because he's doing a very interesting project that's one near and dear to my heart because I like wine, and so does he.
Yes.
And wanted to have you on and chat about what you're doing and your project and all that. So tell everybody about your staff writer for the Record, the name of the column, and also how it's kind of evolving into a Facebook group and a podcast and all that good stuff. So start with the column, if you will, with the Record.
Well, thanks for having me on your program, David. This is quite an honor, and I think it's the first time I've been interviewed about.
Usually it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. So I've been with the Record since 1990. So I've interviewed a lot of people, and it's different being on the other side. The From the Vine wine column started in 2014. The Record at that time was trying to have a little more audience engagement, so they started blogs that they wanted their staff writers to create. And so I was interested in wine, did a few blogs, and they picked it up and put it in the print edition. So for about the last 5 years, on Wednesdays, this From the Vine column has come out, and it's been such a wonderful, fun thing to do and a great opportunity. I wanted to keep it kind of focused on the Lodi AVA. We're sitting in one of the great wine regions of the world, and I think a lot of people didn't really realize that, and I wanted to bring that to light, especially the people that are behind the bottles of wine, their lives and how they do what they do. This year, about 6 months ago, we started a podcast, and this was another kind of evolution in the Record's development as far as audience engagement and trying to capture audiences. So we have several blogs. We have a sports blog, we have a newsroom blog, and then we have my podcast. I keep saying blogs, but we have these different podcasts, newsroom, sports, and then this wine podcast, which is also called From the Vine.
So From the Vine podcast, relatively new for this year. Where can the viewers find that?
Yeah, so probably the best way would be to get a digital subscription to the Record, or a print subscription, which would include a digital subscription. A digital subscription is about $99 a year, so it's about a quarter, 25 cents a day, but that'll give you access to our whole library, our archives, and all of the podcasts. Another way to do it is if you join the Facebook group page, and that's facebook.com/groups/FTV209, because I will post the podcasts and the columns on that group page, and we'd love to have you become a member of that group page. There's a lot of interaction between the members. We've had we had a get-together in August. We're planning other get-togethers coming up, so it's just a fun group to be a part of, and it's really been fun to do that. We have close to 350 members now, and it's only been up a few months.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Stockton who are just tremendous fans of Lodi wine, and obviously it's so close to Stockton that if you're a fan of Lodi wine, you should join the group and get to learn kind of the behind the scenes of some of these, like you said, some of the winemakers that are making that delicious wine. So
we're seeing kind of an interesting evolution right before us in Lodi. In the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen the number of wineries in Lodi increase, from a handful to now close to 100. And that's because a lot of multi-generational farming families that were selling their fruit to bigger outfits, Gallo for instance, to expand their businesses, are now in the wine business. And so we've seen a lot of these families, Lang twins for instance, Harney Lane, there's so many of them that are now making outstanding wine that have control from the vineyard to the bottle. And I just think the quality of the wine that Lodi is producing has gotten a lot better, and there's a lot more for people to do, a lot more wineries to visit, and a lot more fun to have.
Yeah, there's more wineries than you can really conquer in one weekend.
Oh my gosh, much more,
How long, getting back to kind of your story, how long ago when did you really find wine and get into it? Because there's a lot of beginner, maybe wine, people who are just now finding wine and getting into wine. And when did you kind of get into it? And what's your I know you've taken some additional education on kind of developing your knowledge on wine.
Wine was kind of always around our house. My dad was a collector. We didn't have, real expensive bottles of Bordeaux or Burgundy in the house, but he and my mom would visit Napa, so I kind of grew up with wine, but really kind of started taking an interest in wine and thinking of it as more than just a beverage, probably around 2002, and I think everyone kind of has that seminal moment or that seminal bottle that kind of turned them into a wine enthusiast. So that happened to me, I think, about 2002 with a bottle of Pinot Noir at a dinner in Carmel. In 2005, 2006, some friends of my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she and her husband were fans of Harney Lane, and they joined the wine club, and they took us wine tasting, and then that kind of got the ball rolling. And so the more I learned about wine, the more I realized I didn't know anything. And we just kind of looked around to see what was out there. There's a lot of education to be had by just kind of looking around and seeing what wineries are offering. So many of them now are doing kind of consumer enhancement types of activities, vineyard tours, winery tours, and that's what we did. We would find these places and go there and check them out and just talk to the people and learn more and more. And then it got into a little bit more of a formal kind of education process. I was familiar with the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, the WSET program, which is offered through the Napa Valley Wine Academy. Level 1 is very basic and introductory.
It's like learning, tasting.
Well, it's not even at that point. It's really about what is wine? How do you make it? What are some of the different varieties? It gets a little bit into different styles and different types of wines from around the world. I skipped level 2 and then went to level 3, which was like taking a graduate course. It was very intense. There were 3 parts to the test. There was multiple choice essay and then a tasting portion to the test. And it was over a full day in Napa, and passed that. And I'm studying now for the CSW, which is the Certified Specialist of Wine course. So it's just kind of become this hobby, this thing that,
it's a fun hobby.
that it's just really interesting to me.
That's that evolved for me over the years too. My dad was always not always, but he drank a lot of Napa Reds, and it really, I didn't get into wine until later in late 30s, and I was kicking myself thinking, what took me so long? I should have taken advantage of some of the Napa wines my dad was drinking, but it was really my wife who got into it ahead of me, and then kind of evolved. And it's that with the wine and the food paired together, you just find the right combination, and it's unlike anything else. Really. I've read in some places in terms of Lodi that some places are going away from the Zin. Are you hearing kind of a decline in that when they're trying to go to other varietals?
Well, one thing about farmers and growers is that they're going to gravitate toward those crops, those commodities that are most profitable. Unfortunately, what's happened, I think, with Zinfandel is that market has become softer. There is, I don't know if issue might be too strong a word, but we are seeing some of the old vines being pulled and being replaced by other varieties. I don't think it's to the point of alarm or anything that really people need to scream and shout about. There's still plenty of great old vine Zinfandel. Some of the oldest plantings in the country of Zinfandel we have in Lodi that make these marvelous wines. But the thing about Lodi is that the climate there and the soil types are so conducive and so welcoming to a wide range of grape varieties from other regions of the world. We have a Mediterranean, kind of a classic Mediterranean climate. We're not as hot as people want to believe we are. We've seen wineries come in and very successfully grow white grapes, which was just kind of unheard of, or people didn't think would be possible years ago. So I think there's been kind of an innovative and experimental kind of mindset that many of the growers have taken in the Lodi area that you don't see elsewhere. And I think people from outside the region that have come in are experimenting and doing some different things. So one of the appeals to Lodi for me is just how diverse it is.
Yeah,
you go into some certain other regions, and rightly so, they're planting and making wine from the grapes that do well in their area. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. And I think Lodi in the same way is doing that. It's just that there's just such an array of wine grapes that can perform well and make great wines that we're seeing more variety, I think, in Lodi than most any region in the state.
A lot of folks are making Spanish varietals and all sorts of different varietals. So that's great.
Yeah.
Kind of last, I guess the last question for you is if, getting back to if somebody's just getting into wine or has basically beginner.
Yeah.
Any sort of advice to them as far as when they go to a tasting room or how should they explore wine? Because it can be a little intimidating. If you walk into a grocery store, you see hundreds of bottles of wine, all different price points. What's the first step for them?
I think that you brought up the intimidation factor. Isn't it silly that there's an industry where the winemakers and the growers, they are so anxious and want you to try and see what you like. But there is this perceived intimidation factor. And believe me, I feel it too, and I felt it when I was first getting into it. So I completely understand that. And if there's anything that my column or the podcasts can do, or I'm really trying a conscious effort to kind of break that down.
Okay, great.
I fully acknowledge that there can be an intimidation factor, but there really need not be one. So if you're just starting, you might want to try some wine, pick up at a price point you're comfortable with, maybe try some different varieties, see what you like, see what goes well with the food that you like to eat. And don't really pay attention to the rules, because there are no rules. If you like something, eat what you like, drink what you like. Life is too short to get hung up on all of that stuff.
That is true.
Find some friends or your wife or whomever and go out. There's a great place to start if you want to explore the Lodi Wine Trail. And I would suggest everyone to go to the Lodi Wine and Visitor Center.
Oh, great.
It's located in the Wine and Roses Resort, which is on Turner Road near Lower Sacramento Road. Well, the reason why is in there you have a really knowledgeable staff that can kind of see what you like, ask you questions, and then maybe make some recommendations.
Okay.
They have maps. They also have bottles from throughout the region that you can purchase. And there's also a tasting menu of 7 wines. It changes every week, so you can go in there and you're going to be exposed to different wines all the time. They also have a wine club, which brings different wines to the table too. So it's a great place to start. Get some information, but and then when you go to the winery, just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what they're there for. They want you to have a great experience. They want you to see other wineries and taste other things. It's a very welcoming and very supportive community in Lodi, and just have fun. You know, it's a really good time, and hopefully you enjoy what you try. That's
right. Well, those are excellent tips for a beginning wine taster or somebody who's looking to get into it. So if you have any questions, I'm sure you can find the group on the Facebook page.
Right. It's facebook.com/groups/FTV from the Vine, FTV 209. That's the Facebook group page, and recordnet.com is our website for the record, and you can get articles on that too, and sign up for a subscription if you'd like from that as well.
All right. Well, really appreciate you coming in today and sharing what you're doing in the community. I think it's excellent to further expose the Lodi region and the wines in the area, and it's fun hearing the backstories of some of these winemakers.
They all have great stories. Yeah, they're really interesting people, and it's really been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, excellent. We look forward to hearing more from you and on the column as well. So
great.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, David.
All right,
appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching today's episode, and if you like it, please subscribe or comment below or like it. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.